All right, we're gonna check this out again, people. Make sure we working. Do, do, do. So some patience. Pink on again. All right. Well, now see me. Okay, perfect. Now let me check the YouTubes. Yeah, so it might have been me trying to be a little aggressive with my streaming goals. So tonight I tried to add okay, perfect. TikTok checks the YouTubes and yeah, so it might have been me. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on, but I know I tried to add TikTok, not TikTok because I ain't there yet. But I tried to add Facebox. I mean, Instagram, and things probably got a little interesting. So I appreciate your patience and all of that. But generally, if I'm not starting on time, it's some sort of issue. So did you go back to? Okay, so now you're showing on what's the name? You see it? I need to change that a little bit because they be hard to see. Thank you. This is my fluorescent pink shirt. And then I got this little tie that's supposed to somewhat have Head Start colors, but I don't know. They got pink in there, and they got blue, and they got green and white. So I can wear it with a bunch of different things. And I don't know what I was feeling pink today, but so I was talking all that noise. Well, I was talking to myself for a long time. So I didn't even know I wasn't live until somebody asked me, was I having streaming issues? And I checked myself and it was just stuck on frozen. Face talk. No, listen, I I call it face box. So it's a story, I got stories behind everything. So and I probably had every type of job in the world too. So when I lived, see, this how we got off track last time. Because people start asking questions and saying stuff. so where Facebox come from is when I was in Milwaukee, I worked several little jobs for the university, and one was security, which I didn't mind because I was taking jujitsu, so I thought I could choke a person if I needed to, and I definitely could because them boys teaching me jujitsu was fools. Um, well, we also, hey, love bug, good to see you, and your day off. Oh man. Okay, I'm glad that's on. Oh man, see, see, Twitch will show too, and it's always somebody coming in with all this mess. But hey, Ashley, hey, you got the opportunity to jump on here and see. I got it. The Facebook comments don't show, and that's the one that I'm trying to figure out. But everybody else show. You see somebody up here. Hey, Liberty, spam that chat so we can get that mess up out this off the screen. But anyway, back to the face box. So I might be dating my age showing up too, which is but so when I was in Milwaukee, I also one of my many jobs in Milwaukee was security. So I used to run security, and whenever we had, I got two stories about our security meetings. Whenever I had a supervisor, a dorm director, whatever was a supervisor, and we would have a security meeting, and he would try to get us to post on Facebook and try to hype up the events we having in the dorm because we had a little Facebook page, but he could not ever get Facebook right at all. He could not. He always called it Facey Space, Face Box, Face anything except Facebooks. Uh, that's crazy. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's a valuable thing. But when I yeah, but every so that's why okay, so then that must be why it takes 1,000 steps. Because every time I look up ways to add Facebook comments to my live, they always it takes 1,000 steps to do that. And I'm like, man, it takes so many steps, it makes you feel like it's fake. So I'd be like, it's fake. Hey Shakita. Hey, you might as well join the live. I gave directions. I need to put it everywhere because I know it only shows on Facebook. So I need to yeah, I guess I need to put the link on the YouTubes too. But anyway, so that's where the face box come in. So ever since he says face box, you know me, I'm one of those people. Once I hear it, I'm just going to talk about it all the time. So face box is my new thing. I always call it face box. Between that and I remember when we'd work security, that whenever we'd work security, we call it duty. That be our duty shift. So he kept on. We were having a meeting, and he kept on saying, when you're on duty, make sure that you make your rounds and make sure you start your duty on time. And then he was like, and then when you do duty, and I was like, and I couldn't help myself, and I was like, he said duty. And even he had to laugh, but he kept saying duty too much, and it was getting on my nerve. I'm like, man, you saying duty too much, and it's wild how duty, D-U-T-Y, does sound like duty. So those my two, what's the name? So I'm glad you can catch me live, and it's wild because I ain't even doing. Well, I don't know. Somebody might feel froggy. Somebody tried to join last week, and I ain't get a description. It winds up being steps to join the live if I don't directly send you the link. But shoot, if I directly send you the link, you still gotta take these steps, so it don't matter. So I put the steps on there. Facebox do need to step up their game though. Glad you here. Didn't your baby just celebrate a birthday too? See, I be watching y'all. Happy birthday, baby boy. Last week we wound up talking about New Year's Eve and how I seen y'all celebrate. So I be invested in y'all families and y'all lives and, seeing y'all grow and all that stuff. So, that is my entertainment more than crazy TV. So I got my multicolored diffuser here. I got a little coconut scent going on. And it's funny, when I was growing up and I started wearing my cologne, one, two colognes, I mess with Liz Claiborne hard and Calvin Klein. So I still mess with Calvin Klein. Like I said, this bow tie got some blue going on, and I got some blue slacks going on too. So this is pink and blue. So I went with my Obsession Night today. So and I do Obsession does smell amazing. The varieties of Obsession get a little crazy. This Obsession Night is I call it a winter scent. It's more woodsy, it's more harsh, and I normally like them sweet scents. I like to walk past you and you be like, I smell candy. That's me. I want you to remember. I like to smell sweet. You know what I mean? Not feminine sweet, but the kind of sweet that you remember. All right, I see a couple other people join. I appreciate you joining. Today we will discuss until somebody let me make sure I move this so in case somebody feel froggy and do want to join. I want to make sure I see them. So today is a couple of topics I want to talk about. The first one, I always keep my notes. The first one is really about wants, deserves, and what we are entitled to. And when we think about the terms deserve and entitled, I want you to think of them in terms of what type of energy or what type of situations that will match the work that okay, you gonna try to join for real. So okay. Nope. So what happens is if you on an iPhone, it should give you an option to open in browser. The only way the link really works is if you open it in a browser. So I have an Android, so I can click the link and then it'll be like, sorry, we can't find you. And then the upper right hand corner, I can click the three dots and open in Chrome. And that's when it'll find my camera and everything, and it'll allow you to join. I know iPhones, sometimes when they click that link, it already gives them the option to open in browser. The whole point is you just want to open it in the browser and it'll work perfectly. So if you copy it and paste it, and then you can put it in your Google search and it will open up in the browser, and that'll give you the option to join. If you feel like joining, I would love to have you. And if you're feeling froggy, I'll read your energy too. We'll give them some entertainment other than my voice tonight, which is wild. So on a side note, I was thinking about this little girl. So I used to teach. This little girl has been on my mind all day, and I hope she's doing well. You know, this is one of the downsides of being a teacher. You impart your experience, your love on so many children, and sometimes you wonder about them. So I remember when I started doing, I was a 4K teacher, and 4-year old teacher, first time in the classroom, and it was this little girl, and I'm gonna call her V because her name start with a V too. And she was one of those little girls. She reminds you of Little Orphan Annie. And the wild thing about it, when I first saw her, I was like, man, you look like Little Orphan Annie. And when I talked to her, she was like Mr. Anthony. And she spoke this clearly too. Do you know I am in plays and I play Little Orphan Annie? And I was like, oh my God, you be the perfect Orphan Annie. And the wild thing about her, the why I think about her is because randomly throughout the day, she would just bust out with, the sun'll come out tomorrow. And she would be singing that thing like a grandma. And one day she told me one of the best stories. Try again, let me know if you're having any luck. She told me one of the best stories. She said, Mr. Anthony, do you want to hear one of the best, the most funniest stories that was scary at the mall? And I was like, of course. Because when a kid tell you a title like that, it's about to be a great story. You know what I mean? So she said her and mom and dad were walking through the mall. And she was like, and then I seen this boy started running. And then the police started chasing him. And then they tackled him and sprayed hairspray in his face. And I hollered because she just watched somebody get maced, but her child mind had rationalized it as they sprayed hairspray in his face. That was a great story. So that's probably what I'm thinking about. The sun will come out, Little Orphan Annie V. But anyway, so when we're thinking about deserves and entitled to, we're thinking about it in terms of what kind of matches the effort or the work that we put in. And not necessarily on a superficial level, as though like I'll make $1 million a year, so I deserve a woman that makes $1 million a year. Not necessarily so. I mean more on a spiritual and a individual and a physical level, stuff like that. And honestly, it's really about on a self-esteem level because it really is tied to how you view yourself. And no, it's really just tied to how you view yourself and not necessarily how others may view you because others will always see you in a very different light than you see yourself. So, and sometimes they see you better than you see yourself for real. So, one thing that I remember when I was trying to decide on if I wanted to go to college or what I wanted to major in, and you know that decision because they make it seem like society makes it seem like you graduate high school, you go straight to college, you go straight from college, you go straight to work. And that's really not how life works. Very few people actually do go straight from high school to college. The average age in college, like when I was in there, was like 25, 26. So that definitely meant not many people were showing up at 18, except the few people that, you know what I mean, that gets the most attention. But I was always, like I said, I was always one of those artsy kids, and I ain't even really want to go to college. Like I wanted to go to experience the different world type of thing. Like I remember I went to Maryland Eastern Shores the day we went to visit that school. They had a snowball fight, and then they had this little place that was like the pit, and I was like, oh my god, I want to go to Maryland Eastern Shores. So I definitely wanted to go to have the HBCU black experience. But when it came to what I wanted to do the rest of my life and all that stuff, I didn't have any idea. And the wild thing, I didn't even have the luxury to take the time to be able um, to try. Hold on, let me make sure I got that thing working. Give me 1 second, y'all. 'Cause- Okay, we're gonna go back. Sorry, I'll be switching scenes sometimes. But when it came time for me to make a decision, I asked the advice of other people, of course, what you think is a good idea, and it can be still. And I made my decision on biology based on the class that I liked and what other people were saying. And one thing people were always saying is you pick your college degree based on how much money you can make. And I knew as a scientist I could make some bread. You know what I mean? Especially when I started doing some research. Of course, I knew I was going to have to be a doctor, but what people put in your mind is you got to make sure your career allows you to make some money. You know what I mean? So I majored in biology, which was wild. And then, so that was one thing. And then I started looking at how my thoughts and ideas of family were. And when it came to my idea of starting a family or creating a family, one thing I have this intrinsic desire to be fair. Hey, Scrappy, you feeling lucky today? You gonna join? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Hey, Scrappy. I'm messing with you. I have this intrinsic desire to make sure that most of my decisions are fair. I guess that hard laugh means no, huh? Okay, so a lot of my decisions and my thought processes and all that stuff is based on wanting to be fair. Even me picking biology, I wanted to make sure that people were also satisfied with my choice. You know what I mean? Because there's one thing I know. Let's say I wanted to go pick a major of pencil shaving for college. And there's no real degree that, but I found the one school that had pencil shaving as a degree. And I told people I majored in pencil shaving. They would look at me like I'm crazy. So going to college and getting a degree isn't really about what you want. It's really what is helpful to society, right? And they allude that it's about what you want. But when you start picking your choices and you start taking the advice of other people, it isn't always based on who you are and what would be best for you as an individual. It's always based on what they think will be good for you. And that is normally tied to what's good in society or their ideas of society. So when it came to my ideas of family and things like that, with this intrinsic desire to be fair, I would always think of family like, I want to be able to have a family. And when it came to the woman I want to have a family with, I'd always be fair. You know what I mean? So I don't have children. And I always think that saying I want to start a family with a woman without children is unfair, right? So I never really said that. I was raised by a single mother. I know men married her, and when she had one kid, when she had two kids, and when both of her kids was grown, people still found value in her. So I know that women can still have value with children. So I definitely didn't. I wanted to be fair instead of thinking about what's what I want for myself and still allowing flexibility. And one thing that I've been facing where these stories tie into is how much of our mind or our wants are based on other people, right? And I really had to start thinking deeply about it. And for the first time in my life, especially around this idea of starting a family, uh, um, I said I would like the opportunity to start my own family. You know what I mean? And when I'm saying that, that was the first time me just looking at myself, figuring out what I just want for me. And I've dated women with children and I've dated women without children and I know all the dynamics and all that stuff, but I've never actually said what I want when it comes to a family dynamic outside of, supportive wife, like, you know what I mean? Like, what type of woman do I actually want to start a family with? And anytime I thought about it, I always considered that idea of fairness. So for the first time in my life, I actually was, while I'm considering how many of my wants actually include other people's ideas, it's not just based on me intrinsically who I am. I found myself being able to say that I actually would like that opportunity. Now, with that being said, and this is where I think my balance comes in. As we talked about before, I had an issue with putting the two before the one. You know what I mean? So I think this is where the balance comes in. The one is what I really want. You know what I mean? And the two is the flexibility to accept some things that are close to what you want, kind of not what you want, but they still offer all the things that you need. You know what I mean? Because wants and needs are very different. And this theme is going to show up again as I talk a little bit more. So, when you're thinking about your wants, the whole purpose of me telling you this or sharing this part of myself with you is for you to take a little time and think about how many of your wants are actually based on what other people need. And I don't mean to look at that as in a selfish mindset. You know what I mean? But in some aspects, it is okay to be selfish. But do take some time and think about that and then reevaluate those wants and reevaluate them based on what you feel is good for you. And like I said, leave the flexibility to adjust when you get new information. So with me saying that I would like the opportunity to start my own family. If I meet the most amazing woman and she has a kid or children, I'm not just gonna rule that woman out. You know what I mean? Because amazingness is hard to find, period, regardless. You know what I mean? Now there are some situations with children that I'm definitely gonna rule out. But because she has children, I definitely wouldn't rule that out. But in opportunities, I would want differently. If I was telling my children that, I'd tell them differently. And like when it came to college, I probably would not have gone to college when I did. I probably would have went later on. Or man, um, I probably would have picked education. You know what I mean? But they tell you how much or how little teachers make. I'd rather be a scientist. Oh my God. My first job outside of school was crazy. And so when you're thinking about that, an example of this, which made me feel good, which is, well, feel good in the sense that it was a validation that I'm not alone in this situation. I was talking to a friend and I asked them what did they want. And I heard them when they started speaking. I recognized myself in their response. And they started off with well. Well, that well is the first flag that they're about to give you a fair answer. and not necessarily what they want. And they started, well, I would, and they started talking about everything they would accept. You know what I mean? And accept and settle, all that. Accepting, that's not a good bad thing. Settling is not a good bad thing. It's just a it is thing. You know what I mean? And your perception can make it good or bad. So they were telling me everything that they would accept, which wasn't negative. And I had to pause them. I was like, no, 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 no. What do you want? And I felt the anxiety build up in them where it was even difficult for them to say that they would like to start a family with a man who doesn't have children because they have that fairness thing inside of them too. And that's what one of the reasons why I brought this to you all, because it may be a situation where I don't think that that person and myself are the only two people who struggle with this intrinsic fairness thing. So that's why I bring it to you. And then ironically, a lot of this stuff I talk about, it really just comes from real life situations. I have a conversation, somebody tells me something, and it just strikes me. So it's ironic. I got this, like I've been talking about this new position, and it's going to require me to do a fair amount of traveling. Okay, so I just paused. I do want to talk about the quote today. So somebody mentioned it earlier, but I did. It just spoke to me, and I thought I wasn't gonna have enough letters, but I do want you all to pay attention to that. Don't let yesterday use too much of today. And later on, I'm gonna talk about some of the previous healing that I've done. So that's why that's the quote for today. Don't let yesterday use too much of today. So I was talking to another friend, and so I got a job that requires me to travel or whatever, and my birthday is coming up, and I will be turning the ripe age of 45. So, and you may wonder about my gray. I've been turning gray since I was 5 years old. So anybody that's known me my life, they know gray is my signature. You know what I mean? So that's why I won't dye it or anything. So my friend is telling me that is you turning 45. That's a good year. You need to do something for yourself. And I paused and I thought about it. And I thought, I was like, you know what? I have never celebrated myself for my birthday. I've never done anything for myself on my birthday. Never. You know what I mean? And ironically, I've had a couple people try and I've had a couple successes. But just me thinking about myself, that almost seems unfair. You know what I mean? Putting myself like making myself the spotlight as much as I may do this. If you know me, and as wild as it may seem, some of the times I've taken the chance to put myself in the spotlight. I don't like the spotlight. I always said I want to be rich, not famous. You know what I mean? Because I like my life. I don't like being in the front street. But the one thing I'm more afraid of is missing out on opportunities because I won't let myself be greater than how I see myself. So I see myself as shy. You know what I mean? And if you find me in the right situations, I will be shy. But most people know me as my butterfly self until they come and spend time with me at my home. They're like, all you do is just be chilling. Yeah, I'm very different. So this question was pausing to me because when I really think about it, in all the years I've been able to afford to do something for myself, I have not. And I had to think about why. Because I spend money, which is funny. I spend bread. You see, like I trust me, this tie is expensive. I spend money. So why am I not seeing that? And what I realized is the divide on how I spend my money is I spend my money on needs. So I will blow bread on food. So if you know me, I'll tell you I'm a foodie. I eat some of the most amazing food. I eat some of the most terrible food. I cook the best food in the world. So if you had the pleasure to have one of my dishes, I know you enjoyed it. Even from college, when I was just burning up spaghetti to try to to try to tell somebody, like, look, I can cook. You come over to visit me in college, and I'll make that pot of spaghetti for you. My spaghetti was boss, but even now I can cook. And so I spend money on food, and I spend money on clothing, which is wild because I like quality. I like my stuff to last. I got, matter of fact, it's funny. A friend posted a picture of us together in 2010. And I wore that same outfit on last Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving that just passed in 2023. Yeah, I still wore that outfit because the quality of the clothes lasts for that amount of time. And I spend bread on shelter. So I do like to stay where I feel comfortable. I don't want to be laying in no bathtub because they shooting. I like people to be able to visit me and they don't feel like their car getting broken into, and or any of those things. And I will spend money on the things that make those things run more efficiently. You know what I mean? So if whatever makes my food cook better, I'm gonna spend bread on that. Whatever gonna make my clothes last longer, I spend a little bread on that. Whatever is going to make me feel a little more comfortable in my shelter, I spend a little bread on that. So I got hella gadgets. But when it comes to my wants, I cheat myself. And it's funny because at when they ask me how do I celebrate myself, that was really a question of how do you treat yourself? And it was really a question of how deserving do you feel about yourself? So for me to have never have celebrated myself in that form of fashion is it's a low key sense that I don't think I'm necessarily worthy of it. And the problem stems around those wants. You know what I mean? Um, I don't see I didn't see the value in spending a lot of time or money on wants, which is funny. And that statement somebody just typed, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. In our men's group that came up because I discussed this with them. You know what I mean? I talked to the brothers about this to get they're older men and who dealt with this and they can help me. You know what I mean? And there are younger men who are dealing with this who give me another perspective that can help me as well. And that idea, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself, showed up because when I was in Milwaukee, a crackhead literally saw me having this battle that I'm talking to you about now, a battle of my wants. And do I deserve to spend this on a want? And that crackhead, and I told him it was funny, man, we laughed about it. I said, I don't know where that crackhead came from because I was in the store, not where crackheads be. And it seemed like that crackhead just grew out the ground somewhere. And they saw me struggling, like looking at, just pondering back and forth, should I do it? And they said, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. And I was like, what? Cool. I took it and I took their advice. So I ain't even argue with them. I took their advice and I applied it to that moment, but I ain't applied it to my life because I didn't see I had a life issue that they may have. You know what I mean? Or they may not have. And the energy, the spirit, somebody was trying to let me know that I do have this issue. And I probably could have addressed it 10 years ago had I paid more attention. So when it came around, how it winds up coming in the hey Marlena, hey, I don't sound like a DJ no more, so you can kill those DJ jokes. But I'm missing you too. I like your DJ jokes. I might just mess up the sound one time. Here, let me hit. Let me see what I can do. May I make a laugh track or something? I know y'all could hear all that crazy. I did that for you, Marlena. Thanks for joining. So it is funny because like I said, I brought this discussion to the men's in the men's group, and whoop 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 whoop. Hey, Hey man, I finally figured it out, man. It's still the same mess. We gonna upgrade over time. You know what I mean? This I watched this dude and he said they were asking him streaming advice and he was like, you want your lives to get better? Stay consistent. Over time they'll get better. And you know that's a fact because them first lives, God bless. I said that last week. The first lives was tragic. But the problem is, and it's funny, the men's group wound up helping me to realize where the root cause of this conflict come from. You know what I mean? And it comes from a place where, and I don't want to apply it to poverty. I think it because it's not based in poverty, although poverty you see it a lot more, but it's wind up in okay, so it's wind up guys and it's covered in this veil of good intentions. And sometimes it is good intentions. And it's about creating a nest egg and making sure you have the financial safety and you know what I mean? You just don't be frivolously spending money and all this. And it's funny because if you ask me to describe myself, I tell people all the time I'm frugal. I'm not cheap. And it is very different. Like I said, I spend bread on them needs. You know what I mean? But when it comes to my wants, it's like, do you really need that? Do you really, you know what I mean? Then I'll be trying to ask myself, do I need that? And one of the guys said he deals with that dynamic too. And he said what he realizes is that it comes from that where every penny counts type of mentality, where you want to make sure that when that emergency shows up, you have the funds available. And I really found out in life, a lot of times when that emergency shows up anyway, you still don't have the funds available. And that's not me saying go and be reckless with your finances at all. That is me saying you deserve to spend some of that on yourself that you spend on your wants just as much as you do your needs. You know what I mean? And find some balance. So they helped me out a bunch, right? And I still was stuck on thinking about this birthday trip and going on it. And one of the older guys was just talking about how he got to a point where he needed to just take a trip on his own and all that. And it's funny because thinking about planning a birthday trip or a birthday anything, it ain't even just got to be a trip, a birthday anything creates a level of anxiety in me that's like, I'm like, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to do that? And oh God. And the wild thing is he helped me to see that I do have the skills. So what he did was he said he just sat down, he picked a place, you know what I mean, he picked the hotel, he planned the week, he made sure it was gonna have the activities he wanted and all those things. And the funny thing about it is I do this all the time for work so I can get out here and help children and families. I do it for every single reason except myself. I never saw myself as deserving or a reason to do this. And when I normally see people put themselves first, it's kind of like this weird, selfish, burnt out thing. And I didn't like that dynamic. You know what I mean? But there is a place where you can find a balance where it is okay to celebrate yourself, even as my life has changed. And it's funny because the dude said it, he didn't even know. He had no idea. He said in the chat, he was like, "Bro, and now it's time for you to go ahead and celebrate that new job you've always wanted." Now you're like, I still haven't celebrated that at all, and I am happy about it. It's one of the things that I am most happy about. But I really have to think about how I celebrate myself and make sure that the ways I celebrate aren't the same ways I cope because those things need to be different. And a lot of us blur those lines. And I have to see myself as worthy of celebration. You know what I mean? And not wait for other people. Like it just seems kind of gluttonous to me. And I have to work on these emotions to celebrate, put myself, celebrate myself. It just seems gluttonous. It seems a little it just seems weird. You know what I mean? It is funny that other people feel like you should celebrate yourself. Or like I was saying when that friend still told me it's not too late to be able to absorb or internalize when that lady was calling me Black Jesus. It just feels weird to see myself worthy of celebration. Girl, I did not celebrate my degree. Girl, I got hella degrees. You feel me? I listen. I got some papers from Winston State. I got some papers from John C. Smith. I got some papers from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I got some papers from Brunswick Community College. I got some papers from Johnston Community College. I got papers from everywhere. You hear me? And I did not celebrate it. And it is just like what you said. I just moved on to the next goal. And why I'm faced with all of these conflicts and all that is because I've reached a lot of my goals. So now I got to create new goals and I don't have anywhere to necessarily move. So now it's time to celebrate myself. Like all the work that you put in does have a sense of payoff and I don't know how to do that. So I have to learn how to celebrate myself. And I see other people have this issue. I know the people who will have this issue are empaths and those people who are givers because they don't reciprocity is a weird thing. It's a weird thing. And they don't see their or excuse me, we don't see our role in reciprocity can include what we do for ourselves. Okay. So I don't know if y'all can see that comment, but I do have a comment. If you would like a reading, um, so you have an option right now to you can join the live and I'll work with you now. Just gotta click on the link, or if you would like, send me an inbox, and I definitely would love to do a reading for you. Especially if you're dealing with death. And it's funny how death lingers. And one of the reasons it does linger is because it's literally all around us. So yeah, inbox me and we'll talk about that. And I would love the opportunity to be able to help you process that. And because yeah, I'm definitely picking up some stuff on you, but I like to be mindful of the privacy of people, right? And like, listen, like literally, I know I will say this, and I'm not, y'all can hear me struggling on my words. You have a lot of tears that you still need to get out. You know what I mean? I can't even, I'm struggling to communicate your needs because of your emotions and your hurt being so strong. And maybe this would be one of the reasons I wore a version of pink. But yeah, reach out and we'll we'll work on that. Or like I said, you can always join the live. If you feel courageous, don't 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 hesitate. And I will say this: if it resonates with you, it's a difficult thing. And if you are a person who doesn't cry a lot or have been placed in life situations where you don't have the opportunity to cry, right? Please find a place that will allow you to do that. And a lot of times that place will include a healing touch. You need the gentleness. This is where humans come. in handy. You need a gentle touch sometimes to help you release the emotions or the energy that is bottled up. And one thing that I have learned on this process of helping people heal, a lot of people are touch deprived, and they may have been touched sexually, but people are really touch deprived of loving a loving touch. I appreciate you feeling vulnerable enough and figuring this is a safe enough place for you to share that with us. And as you see your story, you are not alone. And that's what this place is for people to realize they are not alone. And there are people who are in the boat with you and they understand the emotions that you are dealing with. So like I said, if you feel good, just reach out, send me a friend request, or follow me, inbox me, and we'll work on um, getting you a reading, an energy reading. And I have a site where you can log in. I mean, you can schedule it and stuff, but I don't like using it because it charges people its own little thing, and that is crazy. I tell you that George, you're probably a little new here, but that was my purpose. I wanted to, one, let people know that this healing process is difficult. It's an emotional one. You're not alone. And I wanted people to feel connected. You know what I mean? So, ironically, as organically as possible, I've been showing the process, and I want people to feel the love and hope and support. That's why I go live, because I deal with all the same things that everyone else deals with. And it takes a hell of a lot of courage for me to expose myself and for you to feel safe enough to expose yourself. So I appreciate that. So ironically, well, we talked about the anxiety that celebrating myself creates. And what he helped me see is I have those skills. I just need to transfer them over. So the wild thing is, if you have issues with celebrating yourself, a lot of times you have the skills, and I'm always focused on the transferability of skills. You celebrate other people all the time. The only thing you got to do is feel confident about your skill set, because you do have the skills to celebrate people. You know what I mean? And then it will make it a little bit easier for you to celebrate yourself, because you are one of the people worthy of celebration. You got me? So celebrate yourself. And you're not alone. And like my friend in Milwaukee told me, treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. Okay. So the next thing, and probably the last thing I'm going to talk about, is previous healing. So I know that's right. And you are worthy too. So it's ironic, I was in this I'm in this group, and they asked the question about dating people who are healed or not healed. And my response for the most part was they got to be on the process of healing. One thing that I think people kind of misconstrue about the healing process, they really do think it's going to be an event, and it's more of a process, and it's a reoccurring process, more like a spiral, a DNA helix. All this stuff is wild how life is also inside your body. So a spiral is like a DNA helix, where you'll find yourself healing some of the same traumas or some of the same things, just on different levels and different avenues and different perspectives. And it can take 20 some odd years. So the part of the healing process that I'm sharing with everyone now, and hoping to help everyone else with, is the third level of healing. I've done a whole bunch of healing before. Let me tell you something. When you get that doctorate, girl, you better celebrate, especially after you complete your thesis. Because I seen this post they asked, was there a class that ever made you cry when you were in school? Wasn't no class that made me cry. Cause I turn that day over. I ain't care. I'll flip all that stuff over. Wasn't no class ever gonna make me cry. Period. But what did make me cry is that thesis. I did that. I chose to do the master's thesis instead of the capstone project because I was being smart. And I was like, I'm going to get my doctorate, so I need practice for the thesis. Girl, let me tell you something. After all the tears you go through, after all the long nights, after all oh my God, the re-edits and edits and all of that stuff, girl, you better celebrate that PhD. As a matter of fact, you let me know, I might celebrate it with you. Okay, so one thing that I was talking about, like the healing process, yes, we are. Hope we are always healing. And that's what I want to make people aware of. So I'm not, that was a dating question. So I was telling, I'm not looking for a person that's healed. I'm looking for a person that is working to actively heal so we can work together. And if they not, when they ready, I'll help them heal. I just can't date them. So I definitely wanted to share with y'all a little bit of scratch. Before I talk about I'm going to talk about some of my previous healing. Some of the things I really had to work on years ago were crazy. So the first one I really had to work on and heal myself from was my complexion. So we talked about it a little bit last week when I was talking about the purple thong story and how I was, where I was mentally and my self-esteem and views of myself. I was transitioning from African booty scratcher to he might actually be attractive. He might actually be attractive. So I really had complexion issues because I was always the darkest person. I don't even care. Like I said, I just ain't blue black. I'm golden black, so you can't really tell that I'm really blue black and ashy black. But I had, yes, you missed the purple thong story, so you're gonna have to look at last week episode, and I think it starts about 30 minutes, right around 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I told the whole story. Listen, Marlena, you missed last week. They were acting up. I came in, I swear, like I did today. I had this whole little plan about things I wanted to discuss, and I was focused, right? And they didn't want to hear. They didn't care what I had to say. No one cared about what I was talking about. The only thing they wanted to hear was stories. I just felt like it was like stories, stories. And it's funny because that's where my teaching background comes in handy. Because we'll learn, like, listen, you can have the perfect lesson planned, and you get to teaching the kids, and the kids just want to do cartwheels. You hear me? It's okay to stop your lesson and let the kids do cartwheels. Do cartwheels with the kids, let them get that out. And maybe you can do your lesson again tomorrow. So y'all were a little more, I can say a little bit more this week and tell a little less stories. But Marlena, you missed last week. Good God Almighty. They was acting up. That's why I made that post, why I enjoyed y'all last week. We had fun last week. But one of my main issues that I had to work on was complexion. And I really do think about the people who kind of helped me outside of like my family. Because when your mama or your auntie or your cousins tell you that, your skin is beautiful, you be like, they supposed to say that. You know what I mean? You my family. Family ain't supposed to talk crazy, even though they do. You don't think like that. So you sometimes and to act like as humans we don't need outside validation is bananas. So this is one of those situations where sometimes this is a situation where I needed outside validation. And to this day I still remember the women who made me feel beautiful when I would question myself. Cause I thought I was a little smooth kid. I'd be the dude to be writing love notes and you know what I mean, trying to rap to them. But I'll never forget in first grade, it was this girl named Mia. And it was funny because light skinned girls started liking me when I was younger. Dark skinned girls liked me too. They didn't really like me when I was younger, but I knew they were having the same issue that I was having. And what I learned about light skinned girls that like me is they were just the opposite end of the spectrum. I was too dark, and in our community, you can be too dark and you can be too light. So they understood some things that I didn't understand. I didn't know that they would understand. But I'll never forget with first grade, it was this girl Mia. I used to love her to death. She made me feel beautiful as a black boy to the point where I used to daydream about finding her when I got older. No lies, envision myself. I don't know why I love the Corvette, but I used to love a Corvette. So I used to imagine myself just driving through towns looking for her in the Corvette. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. When I'm off live, I'll check the messages and we'll go from there. But I used to ride around in my little Corvette looking for this girl, but she made me feel beautiful, and I never found her, of course. And then I'll never forget when I moved to New York, and I guess moving to when I moved to New York was one of those gift and curses because I moved there in the height of the crack era, and it was also the height of black consciousness area, if that makes sense, because that's when like Public Enemy was, that's when Do the Right Thing and all that, girl, you know. So you know, at Vivid said Pisces always dreaming less. Yes, with they. What I realized also, what I suggest, because I used to think I couldn't meditate, but what I realized that daydreaming, that separation of consciousness is actually a form of meditation. I just didn't know I've always had the ability until I found out that meditation takes more than a form of because that never worked for me. I just go to sleep. You know what I mean? When I can daydream, I space out for hours and visit and travel and see all types of things in my imagination. So, yeah. And I'll never forget then when I got to New York, that's when I started meeting the island girls, and there was this girl Cassia. I never forget, and I saw her daddy one time. Her daddy was blacker than me, so I didn't think it was possible. And I was like, "Oh, so you familiar with extra chocolatey people?" It was two island girls there. There was Cassia, and there was this girl Chantel. Them island girls, they like chocolate dudes. You know what I mean? And they made me feel beautiful. And then when I went through middle school was tough. I had to go through a couple of middle schools because we moved, and elementary schools. I ain't fight so much when I fought a lot in elementary school, like every chance I got. You know what I mean? And then we moved to North Carolina. I just stopped fighting as much. You know what I mean? So got there middle school, it really wasn't like that. It was girls that found me attractive, but at this point in society, it's still like you don't be wanting to, you can't date the blackest dude at the school. At this point, no matter how attractive he may be, it doesn't matter. You just can't date the blackest dude at the school. And then I got to high school, and I'll never forget. I think I said it before. Sweetie put me on the map. Sweetie was an attractive girl. Sweetie didn't give a damn. She's to this day. If you know Sweetie, you know she's still. And it's funny to see her as an adult woman because this is probably the most straight laced Sweetie has ever been. But Sweetie don't care about what society think or what society think. So she thought a dude was intelligent, attractive, and she dated me. And then when other people saw, and other people started dating her. So you know what I mean? That's why I started doing modeling and all that stuff. All that stuff helped me become comfortable and do the healing necessary for my issues with my complexion. And I had body issues for a long time too, which the purple thong story wound up helping me with my body issues. I told you when I was a kid, like I will say I'm a fat kid trapped in a non-fat body and shopping in that Husky section all your life and having your mama. You remember back when we was kids, school shopping, everybody was school shopping. So you see all your friends out there. So your mama yelling, turn around so I can look at your butt, make sure them jeans ain't too tight on your butt. Your friends hurting. You might get roasted at school, which is another reason, you know what I mean? I had to let people know. I'll fight you. You picking my tight butt, my tight pants. My mama would not get my pants tight. But going into that, I like, you know what I mean? Even when I started playing sports, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. And it's funny. This girl, I'll never forget when I started playing football. And it wasn't like, it's not like my body is terrible, right? And it wasn't terrible then. You know what I mean? I work out a lot better now, so my body ain't terrible, period. But I never forget all that working out I did between football, wrestling, all that stuff. This girl wound up seeing me one day with a shirt off. And she was like, I thought you was in both shape, better shape than that. Yeah. So the wild thing about it is we don't really talk about how inappropriate some comments are made about boys' bodies as well. And this is from a girl who probably ain't never seen the gym, ain't gonna work out, still don't work out. Everybody in her family obese. There was a wild, like a wild perspective. You don't have the space to talk about anyone's body, but people don't view themselves like that. So it took a long time. So when I walked across that stage and people was like, you evenly toasted. I'm the same black everywhere. Ain't no light skin spots on me. I'm black. My skin black as my knuckles. It's black as everything. Like it's just I'm just the same black all over, which came in handy. And that is like the modeling that helped me work on my image issues that I had to um get rid of. And then the major one was the abandonment issues that I had to work on. And abandonment issues were tied to people were expendable and they came from very different places. So in my life, people were expendable. Before the age of 12, I probably lived in 15 different states, right? So for the most, if you lucky, you gonna have me in your state for 2 years. If you lucky, that's it. And after that, I'm never gonna see you again. You know what I mean? And this is before social media. So to me, like forging long-term relationships or creating the level of vulnerability that you do with people who are going to be in your life for 20 years, I wasn't doing that. Cause it'd be like, with 2 years, I'll be doing this again, making new friends. So for me, people were expendable. And one of the things that helped me stop seeing people as expendable was my uncle dying. When my uncle passed, he made my mama promise that she wouldn't move. She'd give me the opportunity. And we stayed in North Carolina. And it's funny because it took me I moved to North Carolina in the seventh grade. And it took me to pro. It wasn't until the 11th grade that I actually accepted that we were going to stay in North Carolina. And that was because me and my mama were having a conversation that she wanted to make sure I finished my senior year at the G. I had to finish my senior year at Garinger. I love Garinger. Garinger was off the hinges. I loved Garinger. It was It was one of my favorite places to be. And I forget how scary Garinger was to a lot of people, but I loved it. So I had to the living here forced me to make long-term friendships. And then going to college allowed me another opportunity to make long-term friendships. So then I had to face the value of people. Some people are very important to my life. And I don't want them to be gone in 2 years. And they don't be gone in 2 years. And the abandonment issues really wound up coming from one major place, and then it's one that I got to work on now. That's at a new level. So I had an absentee father. Um, I had an absentee father, and not the type that's never there. He was one of them here today, gone tomorrow. So I do have stories and stuff about my pops. And I remember before I moved to North Carolina, I was supposed to go visit him, and I went and spent that summer with my grandma. It was an amazing summer until my last day, which is an interesting story too, because my grandma passed. And I remember my pops was supposed to come get me. He was supposed to come pick me up, and I was supposed to spend time with him. And he came to my grandma's house just to tell me he wasn't gonna take me with him. And that was the day I was like, well, I'm good. I don't even need it. So I had issues with value around him not wanting to take me and all of those things. So I had to deal with abandonment. I'm like, he don't want. I really thought that he just didn't want me, and I wasn't gonna like. Well, you don't want me. If you don't want me, I don't want you either. You know what I mean? Which ain't a valid response because I really did want my father in my life. And I just built that wall up so I wouldn't have to deal with the pain of him not wanting me or what I thought he didn't want. Because it wasn't a matter of him not wanting me. He just couldn't be there because of his own issues, the own healing, the healing that we're doing together, that's the healing he didn't do to allow him to be able to be a good father. And then it was wild. All of a sudden, he done married. I'll never forget when we lived, me and my brother lived with him in California. We met his girlfriend. And I ain't gonna say her niece because it's my sister. I mean, I ain't gonna say her name because it's my sister's mama. And I wound up finding out he done married her and they had a kid. And I'm thinking this whole time, I'm like, yo, he out here being the number one daddy to to my sister, and I ain't getting no love. So I was hot. Fast forward to I'm about 25, 26, and I actually meet my sister, and it's ironic. She about the same age as I was when she was born. And I remember I'll never forget sitting in that room, and that was the first day I found out that he was not there for her either. And she was mad. And it was wild because as I sat there, I just saw her dealing with all the pain and all the frustration I had when I was 13 years old. You know what I mean? And it also let me know how far I had come. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I remember. And she was rightfully angry. She was rightfully angry. And my pops had us both sitting in that room, and we were like, oh my God. So that was the moment that I had to do some releasing because a lot of the anger or the frustrations that we may have can be based on the gaps that we filled in our mind. It may not even be true. So I figured because he wasn't there with me and I didn't know where he was, I filled that gap in with he must be there with them. And he wasn't there with them either. Because when I met her, she had that same gap. You know what I mean? And it was wild. It wound up getting crazy. But all that to say is the healing process is not an event. We always healing. It's a process. We're gonna take some time. I wanted to share with you all some of the healing that I've done before I even got to this level of trying to heal this next whatever this level of healing is. The third level, second level, I don't know. But I'm more comfortable being able to do this and share this with you all is because I've already gone through the process before. And as I've learned, so I already had a skill set to work on healing and forgiveness and letting go and accepting new information and taking on new perspectives. You know what I mean? So now I'm just learning new skills to enhance what I already had, and I'm sharing it with everybody else. So let me see. Is that everything? Doop, 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 doop. Yay! Listen, I always wonder if I'm gonna be able to make it an hour, but I always do. We get to talking and laughing and joking and all those good things. So in an hour or so, we always wrap up the show. I thank you. This was a unique show. It was a good show too. It was an example of something I expect to happen a little more frequently. People who are going to find this safe space, and people are going to feel safe enough to communicate that with us. So, we on our way, people. I appreciate your support. I will be live again on Thursday for the book club. We are finishing. We probably will finish Ballad of the Black Tom, and we'll start working on something else. If it's a book that you would like, suggest. I'm open. And if not Thursday, I will see you next Tuesday. February is gonna be lit with a lot of travel for me, so I don't know how the shows are going to work. I'm still trying to figure that out, but they may be mobile or something, but we'll work it out. I thank you to everybody that showed up. I thank you, and I'll see you folks next